This is the Amera plastic moldings modular building with the door, and here in the package I have the modular building without a door, Z225. So this came in 6 parts. This is a dry fit of before I actually used glue to assemble it, and it was actually kind of hard to put it together. I had to use the back of my laptop to give some counter pressure, but the roof comes off. Here's the 4 walls. Workboy on top of the roof. I like the roof. It's a very large area. This whole thing is quite a large structure or surface that takes up a lot of room on the table, which will be quite nice, and I'm going to keep it intact. I'm not going to make a ruined version, and I'll show you why in just a minute. It's very smooth. All this plastic is very smooth. There's no texture. And then these windows are not cut out, and in the pictures on their website, and I think on FRP Games, they show the product with the windows cut out. So I'm going to do that, I think, sensibly before I try to assemble it. I'm going to go ahead and cut those out. Here is the door on the one with the door, and then it probably will fall apart in my hands. So here's why I won't do it as a ruin, because the material is so thin. Here you can see where there's a slight raise where I've actually bent it. The walls are under a lot of pressure. They have this lip on the bottom, which is going to slide under this tray. Directions? No. So I'm assuming the tray goes like this with the lip facing up to catch anything instead of facing down and being hollow. So I'm going to glue it together like this. So I think I'm going to glue both sides and then quickly glue the joint. It's not really a joint, but this edge right here where there's a gap, I'm going to slide into the end where there's some overhang. I don't think it's going to go like this, so I think I have it right that this is going to go in here. If you can see, there's just this little kind of nub or area where it was punched out or cut away. Might need to sand that down. So I'm going to glue along here with polystyrene cement, and I hope that will hold right there. The other thing before assembly that I just noticed, because I do have the one without the door, and this is the one with the door. So I intend for the one I'm about to put together to go down on the ground floor, of course, and then the next one I want to put on top of it. Well, the problem there is this is a base. Here's the roof. I assumed that somehow they would have some means of actually connecting them, but it's just going to have to rest on the top, and I might use some magnets on beneath and on top, and I won't need to glue them. You just need to place them just to hold it in place to have a 2-story building. And each one of these sides, this is about 9.5 inches, and the long side is 11 inches. So here's the building with the door, with the windows cut out. Here's the cyker hiding behind in the structure itself, and of course the Orkboy on the roof. You can see probably just a little bit that these are kind of uneven, and I'm going to trim them just a little bit more, but unfortunately there's really, for me at least, with my level of coordination, there's not a real way to trim these to have kind of the mechanical, an actual professional look. So I can get rid of this little bit of flash, and it actually trims off fairly easily. Cutting the windows out was more of a pain. So the walls are glued together. It actually ends up being fairly strong. So the next the next stage for me is going to be painting after I do a little bit more trimming. And then I think before I do the painting, I want to try one more thing. So I kept this open so I could move figures around it inside the building. And then you can possibly see, I know it's white on white, but might want to trim the flash off here on the corners. And then on the sides, it's not totally flush. This, if I glued this in more on the side, it would be straight. But I want to be able to take the roof off, as I've already said. Same issue on this side. It bulges out just a little, and on the inside, even though I applied glue here, this isn't really, it's sticking here and here, but down below it's not quite sticking beneath these windows to where there should be room for the glue to stick. Now on this other side, I do have it flush, so that glue managed to stick. And just looking again over here, it is stuck on this side and on this side. So I do have one side where the glue didn't quite catch, or it's not pushed in all the way. So everything here, there is a slight leaning in, like my hand is showing, and over here, but otherwise it's fairly well assembled, I'd have to say. Here we are in my laundry room, my high-tech setup. Here's the top, the second floor, the one without a door that I assembled, and this worked well on the bottom part, in my opinion, so I'm going to do this on the top. What I'm doing is using 3M spray mount artist adhesive to spray down the tops and the sides, and I'm actually applying texture. I don't have the GW rough coat. I don't particularly want to go to a local store and buy some. So what I'm going to do is spray this, and I did this on the bottom, and it did texture it pretty well. So I'm just using a storage area or storage container, and then I'm just going to sprinkle this dental plaster that I use for my Hearst Arts molds to make, to cast from, onto the top. And this actually does provide some noticeable texture. Basically, these are so smooth, the Amera plastic moldings, that they could definitely use this. And I just bang this off and put some on the sides and so on, and you'll see the painted effect. So to sum up, here's the finished building. I haven't, I'm going to dull coat it, and then, or actually I'm going to gloss coat it and then dull coat it to take away the shine and to lock in the paint. The paint scheme I used was country gray over, or country gray, which is a apple barrel paint color that I use on other things, and then a mixture of that with white, and then some white on the actual raised surfaces or the edges. I think it turned out pretty well. The door, there's a real lack of detail on the door. Here, I mean, I could go back through and touch this up. You can still see, if you really want to, the windows, they're a little jagged. But overall, once you move away a couple of feet, it's a really nicely sized thing. I mean, here's an infantry troop from 1843, and he's tiny. And what can you fit in here? I mean, here's a Strider sitting comfortably inside. Watching the previous videos, I had a concern about the roof staying on, or sorry, the two different floors, but it actually, of course, because it's level, they're not going to really go anywhere. Here I've taken off the roof from the first floor, or the ground floor, and that's really just to make it sit more flush. I wouldn't keep both of them on in play. And then a couple other points. Let's see. Or some things I'm going to do in the future. I think I'm going to return to this product. Can we see that guy back there? Anyways, my point is, what I was trying to do is move someone around back through the windows. Right now you can see through the entire building, and for 40K purposes you have line of sight. Now it is an intact building. I don't know how exactly we're going to use it, but yeah, you can see through the windows. I think I'm going to put a foam core insert in to divide up the inside, to add some inner walls to block line of sight. And I'm going to maybe also cut out on the roof, or on both roofs, an access hatch. Then I'll probably have some kind of plastic card covering for when I don't want the access hatch open. And then I'm also going to possibly detail the floors. And you can see here the effects of the dry brushing and that plaster I applied. But here on the floor, it's so smooth. This really doesn't have any texture. This is what would happen if I just tried to paint it without primer, which I did. Otherwise it'd be very light inside. So I want to maybe go back and work on the floors a bit. I might add window panes for the windows, just to dress it up a bit. And also on the roof, I think besides an access hatch or a little shed on top, what could look really cool would be to add some Hurst Arts pipes. And I would also provide some cover from up above in case there is a higher building in my cities of death, or however I'm going to use this setting, then they can take cover on the roof. Anyways, I think this product from Amera is pretty decent. It does take a bit of time to assemble, and I really am kind of excited about all the different things and ways I can expand upon it.